In today's video, we're going to try and predict who is going to dethrone every single current active champion in the WWE today. And we are going to look at every single current champion, including all of those on the main roster, NXT, and even a couple across TNA and AAA. This is a monthly series that gives us the opportunity to stop, look around, and analyze the current state of championship feuds. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I know that you're going to fall in love with this YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. And I'm so true to that promise of daily content that I'm actually currently in Japan pre-recording a bunch of videos, so as you're watching this, I'm somewhere in Tokyo at the moment. All right, but that's enough. Let's get started. Kicking things off, we have the Women's World Tag Team Championship belts. And since the last video, not a whole lot has changed. The champions in the last video were and still are the team of Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss, and I don't think that this is going to be changing anytime soon. I do think that these two are going to be holding the tag titles until at the very least early 2026. I say early 2026 because I do predict at some point in early 2026 for these two to lose the titles, break up, and have a WrestleMania feud. But in the meantime, there really aren't any tag teams that are a credible threat. We have the Secret Hervis, who at the moment are kind of in a hiatus due to Piper Niven's potential career-ending injury. And then when you look at the rest of SmackDown, it's really only Julia and Kiana James that might potentially even attempt to go after these tag titles. There might also be action from NXT. Zaruka, so Zarya and Soruka might be gunning after these championships as well, but I also don't see them as a threat. So because of this, I'm going to continue with the prediction that I've been making now for the past 2.5 months, which is that Rhea Ripley and Io Sky will eventually become a tag team and go after the tag titles. The first part of that prediction has officially come true as of the making of this video. In the most recent episode of Monday Night Raw, Rhea Ripley and Io Sky have come together to go up against the Kabuki Warriors, not for any gold, just because of a blood feud that's currently going on. But in my head, if Rhea Ripley and Io Sky could beat one of the best women's tag teams active right now, the Kabuki Warriors, it would make sense for somewhere down the line for these two to continue to chase even more gold, namely the women's tag titles. So I'm not going to change this. I'm going to continue moving forward with this prediction here. Next up, we have the World Tag Team titles from Monday Night Raw, and it looks like these might be coming back to life soon. We'll see. In the last video and in the video before that, and now for a handful of months now, the champions were JD McDonough and Finn Balor of the Judgment Day. And it's easy to stay champion when you don't defend the damn things, because it seems like the Judgment Day as a tag team has been put on hold, and so has seemingly the entire men's tag team division on Monday Night Raw as well. In the last video, I had predicted that the Usos would eventually win the World Tag titles away from the Judgment Day. Funnily enough, I originally had the Bronze, but then I switched to the Usos, and now, folks, yeah, you guessed it, I'm going right back, because I'm going back to the Bronze. I do think that now that they have Paul Heyman back, number one, they even have matching jackets now, and are very much not individuals anymore. They very much have a tag team identity, and I do think that it would be smart to put the tag titles on these guys, both for the development of both of these guys and the legitimacy of these guys, but also for the tag team division as well. I also think it would look really good for the Vision to go into War Games, who I presume will be the top heel faction that the babyfaces go after at War Games. I think it would be a really good look for them to have just nothing but gold. Having Seth Rollins as the world champion and having the Bronze as tag team champions would make them look fantastic going into that show. Let's talk about the tag team titles from Friday Night SmackDown, a much healthier division that is now kind of taking a different direction, but it's still a good one. In the last video, the champions were the Wyatt Six, and it seems like they're going to be holding this thing for a while. And it also feels like the SmackDown tag team division is taking a different course. Like, they're not doing the same thing where it's just showcase matches, where it's just jamming as many tag teams as you possibly can into one storyline. It seems like the tag team division has now expanded enough to the point where it seems like WWE Creative is actually trusting the tag team division to carry storylines. And because of that, because you're actually focused on individual tag team feuds and storylines, you can't really really jam-pack all of the different teams. So it means that teams like DIY, Motor City Machine Guns, and Fraxium are kind of taking a back seat right now as they develop the storyline of the Wyatt Six testing the Brotherhood of the Street Profits. And they are absolutely testing the Brotherhood of the Street Profits. In fact, they do have a scheduled match for the tag team titles upcoming soon, a match that I believe that the Wyatt Six will retain in a match that I believe will result in the breakup of the Street Profits. And the reason for this is because if you really want people to buy in to the magic and the divide that the Wyatt Six can actually cause within the tag team division, there's no better selling point than by having a pair of the longest tenured tag teams on SmackDown breaking up and imploding on each other because of everything that's going on with the Wyatt Six. That would really solidify the Wyatt Six as a planetary threat on SmackDown. Now that begs the question, who eventually will be the ones to dethrone these guys? And I think it's going to be a pair of guys that are going to be able to demonstrate their brotherhood. And I think it could be Fraxium. Fraxium has been fighting for like ever. They don't pretend to be perfect. They argue with one another. And that's just like family is, like how brothers are. It's not always lovey-dovey, we're best friends. Sometimes brothers argue. Sometimes brothers can get into verbal altercations. But these guys have never gotten physical on one another. They always manage to talk it out. They always manage to bro it up and get back in the ring and continue to put on bangers. And because of their prior experience of potential dissension and infighting and whatnot, I think it puts them in a perfect position to be the ones to prove the Wyatt Six wrong and to be the ones that are able to demonstrate to the Wyatt Six in the world that their brotherhood is real. I might just be coping, by the way. I'm fully aware that might be a situation that's happening here, but I'm going to stick with this. It's a prediction that I've been making now for the past 2 months, and I'm not changing it. Now more than ever, seeing how the storyline of the Street Profits has developed, I feel better about this. We can talk about the Speed titles super quick. They've been revived kind of on NXT. Sol Ruca is the NXT champion. Last video I predicted that she would lose it to Candice LeRae. Candice LeRae was in the Speed tournament, but then she ended up losing in the semifinals to Lainey Reed. Lainey Reed would then go on to have a match at No Mercy that would end up not happening due to an injury and her not being medically cleared. So I'm just going to go with Lainey Reed. I'm going to keep it nice and simple, especially now that Lainey Reed is looking at potentially joining Fatal Influence. I think that her winning that Speed title and bringing it to Fatal Influence would be the way for JC Jane to accept her into the group. For the men, the champion is still technically El Grande Americano, whatever, Dragon Lee, sure, why not? This is weird because they've revived the women's Speed championship, but they've yet to revive the men's. I don't know when that's going to happen or if it's ever going to happen. The NXT tag team division, let's talk about these bad boys. In the last video, the champions were and still are Dark State. They were able to dethrone Hank and Tank, and I honestly wasn't very creative with this. In the last video, I suggested that Hank and Tank would just win these back. And the reason for that, to be fair, wasn't entirely illogical. It was because there's no depth in the NXT tag team division. Like, I genuinely cannot name you a team aside from Hank and Tank, Dark State, and the fellas from Chase U. Like, that's about as deep as the NXT men's tag team division gets. So there really aren't a lot of opportunities for Dark State, who is booked very strong to lose these titles, which is why I figured, okay, I guess it will eventually go back to the only other like true viable team on Friday night on NXT. But things have changed, ladies and gentlemen, and they have changed in extreme ways. Because of this TNA invasion angle, they have set up a match between the Hardy Boys and Dark State in winner take all, and I believe that the Hardy Boys are going to win. I don't think that there's going to be shenanigans that cause this match to end in a disqualification, but part of the reason why I think the Hardy Boys are going to win this is because they have a scheduled match with the Dudleys literally like the week after at TNA's Bound for Glory, their biggest show of the year. And I think to make that show even bigger, having the Hardy Boys walk in as TNA tag team champs and NXT tag team champs could really help like juice up that match even more. And the fact that it is winner take all makes me believe that the Hardys aren't losing this because the match at Bound for Glory against the Dudleys is for the TNA tag title. So if they were to lose the TNA tag titles like the week before, then the match against the Dudleys would be for nothing. So I think, believe it or not, that we're going to have the Hardy Boys as champions in the WWE again in 2025. The NXT titles, by the way, happen to basically be like the only major tag titles that these guys haven't won. So this would basically complete their Pokedex of tag titles. The Women's North American Championship, nothing really has changed here, and neither have my picks. In the last video, the champion was Sol Ruca. Sol Ruca has been the champion for quite a while. In the last PLE, they chose to have her defend her speed title instead of the Women's North American Championship. But eventually, we're going to have to start defending this thing. And I still think the storyline is ready-made right there. I think it is going to be against Zarya. We've had a lot of miscommunication between these two. In fact, we had Sol Ruca accidentally hitting Zarya with a Soul Snatcher a couple of episodes of NXT ago. They're still good. They're still fine. But clearly, somebody is rocking the house, all right? It's not a perfect marital bed at the moment. And I think that eventually Zarya is going to snap and go after the Women's North American Championship. So I'm not changing this prediction. The Women's US Championship. It's impossible to predict if it's never featured. In the last video, the champion was Julia. Julia is still the champion. I might be over exaggerating when I say it's never featured. She has been appearing on SmackDown in like tag scenes. She just teamed with Kiana James to take on B-Fab and Michin. B-Fab and Michin is literally the depth of the Women's United States Championship division at the moment. That is all that is gunning after this championship, and I don't see either of them being a threat. So because of that, I will continue to make the prediction that I've made in the past, which is that Julia is going to hold for long enough for there to be a superstar shakeup, and Lyra Valkyria will go over to Friday Night SmackDown, challenge for the United States Championship, and win it. Is it a stretch? Yeah, probably. But like, is it more of a stretch than having B-Fab and Michin win? I don't think so. The Women's Intercontinental Championship. The champion in the last video was Becky Lynch. And here's the thing, all right? I decided to make the prediction that AJ Lee would eventually be gunning after the Intercontinental Championship. Now, mind you, I made this prediction before AJ Lee had even properly returned to the WWE. Now that she's back in the WWE, I feel real good about this. It's very clear that after WrestlePalooza, after AJ Lee was able to pick up the victory by taking out Becky Lynch specifically, it just makes sense that the next transition here, eventually maybe late 2025 or early 2026, is to run AJ Lee versus Becky Lynch for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. And I really think that once they do, that AJ Lee is going to win this thing. So I'm going to continue with this prediction. I'm going to pick AJ Lee still. The North American Championship. In the last video, the champion was Ethan Page, one of my favorite things going on in all of WWE at the moment. I'm starting to sniff out the end of his reign here. I think that we are at the point where we might be looking at Ethan Page potentially going to the main roster sometime soon. Now, in the last video, I predicted that at No Mercy, that Tavion Heights would be the one to dethrone Ethan Page, so that Ethan Page could go onto the main roster, and for Tavion Heights to be, the next young gun in the mid-card of NXT. I really thought that it was a strong possibility that they were going to go down this route, especially considering they were telling the story of USA versus Canada, and USA must pose. But no, they had Tavion Heights lose, for all intents and purposes, clean to Ethan Page at No Mercy. So I don't think that this is the route that they're going to be going. I really debated between two guys. Funnily enough, one of the guys is right behind Tavion Heights in this picture, in Miles Bourne, but I see it. I think it's a strong possibility, but I'm going to go in a different direction. I'll go with Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr., Dr. Wagner III, if you don't really want to get that overly complicated with the vernacular of like lineage. Right now, Dr. Wagner Jr. is the Latin American champion, and I do think that they are going down the path of Dr. Wagner versus Ethan Page in a winner-take-all match. And with my already blossoming thought that Ethan Page is going to be going to the main roster, it's strengthening my thought that Dr. Wagner here might be our next North American champion, so that we can send off Ethan Page to the main roster. But Dr. Wagner is also very popular in Mexico as well, and he's been making appearances on NXT, so there might be a desire to have Dr. Wagner Jr. perhaps maybe work double duty here as Latin American champion for AAA and North American champion in NXT, so that NXT can showcase some of that AAA talent on national television. So I'm going to lock this in. I don't think it's like the strongest of beliefs that I've had. Again, I think Miles Bourne is a really like strong, cheeky option here as well, but I'm going to lock this one in. The Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr. Again, Dr. Wagner III would have just been easier. The United States Championship. Funnily enough, one of the best things going on in the WWE at the moment. The champion in the last video, and still the champion, is Sami Zayn, and currently he is doing the Open Challenge, which is such an awesome thing. Right now, the Sami Zayn US Open Challenge is far and away, and I don't think I'm exaggerating here, the best thing going on Friday Night SmackDown. It is the most consistently good thing. It is the one thing that I look forward to every single episode of Friday Night SmackDown, and so far, it's only delivered bangers. It has yet to disappoint, and I don't think that it'll disappoint for a really long time. In the last video, I picked Aleister Black, and honestly, I still think that this is a really strong option, especially if Aleister Black is able to win the feud against Damian Priest. I think it'd be a logical, natural transition for Aleister Black to then answer the open challenge of Sami Zayn and be the one to dethrone him. But things have changed because it's possible that a new combatant may have entered the arena, and if this combatant does enter the arena, everyone is screwed. I'm talking about the ruler, Oba Femi. We'll talk about him later on in the video again, but Oba Femi has been dethroned as the NXT champion, and I'm still in shock and awe. And he was not featured on the most recent episode of NXT that was showcasing the angle of NXT versus TNA. I mean, in my head, like if you're NXT, you would want Oba Femi on your team, right? So if they didn't pick him up to be on the team, it must mean that he might not be available. Why isn't he available? It's maybe because he's going to the main roster. Out of like the majority of the people right now on NXT, Oba Femi is legitimately like the most main roster ready. He is great on the mic. He has great presence. He is a monster, and he has very good matches. To me, like everything checks off the box for having a successful career, and I think a monumental way to start his run on the main roster would be to pull a Carlito and have him win the United States Championship on his debut on Friday Night SmackDown. Listen, if Oba Femi's music hits when Sami is waiting for the open challenge combatant, it's over. It's done. Like it's done. Like seriously, Sami Zayn is losing to Oba Femi if it happens. The question is, of course, will it happen? I don't know. Obviously, I'm not a clairvoyant. I can't tell the future, but I'm going to try and predict it. I'm going to go with Oba Femi. The Intercontinental Championship. The champion in the last video, and still our current Intercontinental Champion, is Dirty Dominic Mysterio. And in the last video, I predicted that he might eventually lose it to a returning Ilya Dragunov. Here's the thing. I would have assumed that Ilya Dragunov would have been back by now. The original timeline was like late August, early September for him to return back from injury, and it is now October. We still don't have Ilya Dragunov. I do believe that Ilya Dragunov is around the corner, and I do believe that when he does return, that he's going to be in the picture for the Intercontinental Championship. But when he returns and when he goes after the Intercontinental Championship, it's possible that Dom might not even be Intercontinental Champion. I'll predict Rusev. Right now, Rusev, Judgment Day, Rusev, Dominic Mysterio do have a thing going on at the moment. I know that Penta also has a thing going with Dominic Mysterio, but Penta's like going for the IC title, but also going for the AAA Mega Campeonato. So I don't really know yet what they're actually going to have Penta go after, because in a commercial segment, he said IC title, but in the PLE of Worlds Collide, he said the AAA Mega Campeonato. So I don't know what Penta's actually going for. But what I do know is that Rusev is pissed. Rusev got screwed by Dominic Mysterio. I think he's going to continue to gun after Dominic Mysterio and eventually win the Intercontinental Championship. And that opens the door for a returning Ilya Dragunov to come back and go up against the big bad heel in Rusev for the IC Championship. The TNA World Heavyweight Championship is still part of the equation, and that's because our current champion is still WWE NXT star Trick Williams, and I do think that his days are numbered here as TNA World Heavyweight Champion for a couple of reasons. I think it's run its course, number one. Number two, we have the perfect opponent and the perfect venue for him to lose at Bound for Glory. And three, I feel like he's done it all. That everything that there is to do on NXT, it's done. It's over. I think it's time to start looking and thinking about Trick Williams going towards the main roster. So I'm going to keep my my prediction the same. It's the same prediction that I've been making for a long time, which is Mike Santana. We do have a confirmed match now at Bound for Glory. So to me, it's a no-brainer. TNA finally is able to topple the evil, tyrannical Trick Williams, who's been holding the TNA World Heavyweight Championship hostage at their biggest show with the star that's currently the brightest in TNA in Mike Santana. God damn it, I have to talk about the Women's TNA Knockouts Championship because, well, it's back into the equation. In the last video, I said goodbye to the Knockouts Championship because it was going back to TNA because Ash by Elegance shockingly won this damn thing, shocking the entire world and making me eat my my monitor. However, unfortunately, rather than being able to have a run, she got injured. She was forced to vacate the title. In fact, it sounds like the injury might be bad enough to outright force a retirement of Ash by Elegance, formerly known as Dana Brooke in the WWE. So obviously all the best to her, fingers crossed. But because she vacated it at the most recent TNA pay-per-view in Victory Road, they decided to have a match for the vacated title, and it ended up being another NXT WWE superstar to win the title, because we have Kalani Jordan from NXT as our new Knockouts champion. But fear not, I don't think this is going to be a long reign. I think that they are just setting up for TNA to win all the gold back at Bound for Glory. And Indy Hartwell, formerly known as Indy Hartwell as well in WWE, has that match at Bound for Glory, and I think that she's going to win the Knockouts Championship there. The AAA Mega Campeonato. This thing recently moved. In the last video, the least popular man in Mexico, named Hijo del Vikingo, was our AAA Mega Campeón. In the last video, I predicted that Dominic Mysterio would dethrone him, and la-di-da, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to rejoice. Because yes, Dirty Dominic Mysterio did go on to win the Mega Campeonato. He is now technically a world champion in the world of the WWE. He is Dom 2 belts, ladies and gentlemen. So we're still really early on in his championship reign. To even try to predict who's going to dethrone him is kind of difficult right now, if not nearly impossible. Hear me out. I think it could be El Grande Americano. I'm not sold on this. The reason for this is, why is El Grande Americano helping Dominic Mysterio win all of these matches, win the Mega Campeonato? It's a great question that Finn Balor and the rest of Judgment Day have been asking. Like, these aren't just for the goodness of his heart, like Dominic Mysterio thinks. There's got to be a selfish reason behind it. And I do think that eventually that selfish reason will be shown to be that El Grande Americano wants a chance at the Mega Campeonato, and he's going to use the numbers game, a numbers game that Dominic won't have, because Finn Balor and JD McDonough aren't coming out for his matches anymore, and El Grande Americano will be the AAA Mega Campeón. Like, is this going to happen? Maybe, but I feel like I at the very least laid out a scenario that kind of makes sense with the information that we have in front of us. So sure, I'll go with El Grande Americano. The NXT Women's Championship. In the last video, the champion was JC Jane. She's still the champion, and I'm going to predict that nothing is going to change here for a while. She was able to retain against Lola Vice at No Mercy, and I'm just going to keep with my same prediction. Eventually, it's going to be Blake Monroe. Wouldn't be surprised if it's in some sort of multi-woman match where she's able to pin some babyface. The Women's World Championship has a new home as well. In the last video, the champion was the legendary Vacant. Of course, we know that Naomi was forced to relinquish her championship because of the news of her pregnancy, and it left us with a void and lack of a champion. And for WrestlePalooza, they made a championship match between Stephanie Vaquer and Io Sky. In the last video, I predicted that Stephanie Vaquer would be the one to eventually win this championship, and it ultimately ended up happening. And the world is much better for it, because Stephanie Vaquer, La Primera, is our new Women's World Champion, and she did it in an absolutely fantastic match against Io Sky. I'm just going to predict that it's going to be a returning Liv Morgan. Maybe it's at WrestleMania. Like, I'm thinking about the timeline of when Liv Morgan can return to the WWE. Everything was pointing to January, and if it is in January, I could see her winning the Rumble. I could see her winning the Rumble and immediately challenging Stephanie Vaquer, and maybe we get Stephanie Vaquer versus Liv Morgan at WrestleMania, or maybe it happens before that as well. But I do think when I look at the landscape of Monday Night Raw needs a heel to go after Stephanie Vaquer, and I think that there's no better heel at the moment, even though we're waiting for her to come back, in Liv Morgan to be the one to eventually do it. I think it's still a long ways out. Like, I really don't think that this is going to happen next week, but I want you guys to start keeping this in the back of your mind as a possibility. The Women's WWE Championship. In the last video, the champion was Tiffany Stratton. She's still the champion and just defended the title in a hellacious triple threat match that had a ton of blood from Jade Cargill in a massive botch that people are still talking about. In the last video, I predicted that the eventual future champion, the one to dethrone Tiffany, would end up being Jade Cargill. I still think it's Jade Cargill, mostly because, like, who else? Like, unless Bianca Belair returns, but Bianca Belair is also a babyface. I don't see it happening. Yes, Jade Cargill is a babyface, but the way that things ended on SmackDown, they might be able to turn this into a heel turn for Jade Cargill, especially with that nasty gash that had her bleeding all over the goddamn place in that match. They could maybe use that as a catalyst for a heel turn. If she turns heel, maybe sometime soon, she'll be champion. The NXT Championship. I never thought I'd see the goddamn day, fellas, because our champion, Obafemi, who's been champion since the start of the year, was finally dethroned. The bit of all fictional characters coming together to try and dethrone Obafemi is over. The streak is dead. And genuinely, I'm so shocked. I didn't think that Obafemi would lose this until at the very least stand and deliver. I thought that he was going to be holding this thing for a year plus. In the last video, I predicted that it would eventually be Javon Evans. I'd been predicting Javon Evans for basically the last 9 months. And the way that the story was shaping out, I thought I was bang on, that it was going to be Javon Evans at NXT's biggest show of the year, Stand and Deliver. Because the story that they've been telling with Javon and Oba is that Javon is just not good enough yet, but he gets better and closer every time that he gets an opportunity. And I thought that the final, bout, the final battle would be at Stand and Deliver between those two, where Javon finally conquers the ruler. But no, instead, WWE went with Ricky Saints, which I think is a perfectly great option to be your NXT champion. He's a seasoned vet. He's very good. He's very over. He's gonna be a great NXT champion. The problem isn't that he is the NXT champion. The problem for me is that they picked him to be the one to beat Oba, because like I said, I feel like Javon just had the better story. So because of that, whatever, I'll stick with Javon Evans being the one to dethrone Ricky Stark somewhere down the line, probably Stand and Deliver. The World Heavyweight Championship, you know what, I'm gonna be quick here because nothing has changed with my men's world titles. In the last video, I suggested perhaps maybe Seth Rollins would lose to CM Punk, and this feud is still going on. This feud currently is on ice because of everything going on with Crown Jewel, and then after that it's going to be Survivor Series War Games. So I predict that they're going to pick this back up in probably Royal Rumble season, which I think is probably the perfect timing for Seth Rollins to drop it to CM Punk, so that Seth Rollins could go on to have a feud, probably a non-title feud with Roman Reigns. So I'm not going to change this. I still feel good about this. I'll say CM Punk still. And the WWE Undisputed Championship, also nothing has changed here. Cody Rhodes is still our champion. He defended successfully against Drew McIntyre. There was thoughts and possibilities of Drew McIntyre maybe dethroning Cody Rhodes. There was even apparently a leaked plan of Randy Orton accidentally costing Cody Rhodes the championship and Drew McIntyre winning, but no. They just did the most plain, boring, expected finish that you would expect at WrestlePalooza. So whatever, I'll just go with the same thing that I've been predicting here for a while. Heel Randy Orton, eventually Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, WrestleMania. Sure, go ahead, book it, let's do it. All right, folks, thank you so very much for watching today's video. Again, your opportunity down in the comments below to let me know what you feel I am right or I am completely wrong on. But that's it. I'm done. Goodbye. Get out of here.